The first time anyone noticed him, he was already kneeling in the rain. Cars rushed past on the busy city road, people hurried to warm homes, and umbrellas bloomed like dark flowers along the sidewalk. But near a broken fence behind an abandoned grocery store, a thin homeless man in a torn brown coat was crouched beside a trembling dog. Most people would have walked by without a second glance. He didn't. And that small decision changed more lives than anyone could have imagined. His name was Daniel. At least, that was the name he still carried with him after everything else had been lost. Years ago he had a job, an apartment, and a family. Then life, with its quiet cruelty, had taken them away one by one, first his wife to illness, then his work, then his home. By the time he found himself on the streets, he felt as if the world had already forgotten he existed. He owned almost nothing, an old backpack, a frayed blanket, and a heart that was tired but still kind. That evening, while searching through a trash bin for anything useful, Daniel heard a soft whimper. At first he thought it was just the wind. But then he heard it again, weak, desperate, and afraid. He followed the sound to the fence where he found her, a skinny, mud-covered mother dog curled around 4 tiny puppies. They were shivering in the cold, soaked by the rain, their eyes barely open to the world. Anyone else might have sighed and walked away. Daniel sat down beside them. "Hey there, Mama," he whispered gently. "Looks like you've had a rough time too." The dog growled softly at first, protective of her babies. But Daniel didn't move closer. He just stayed there, speaking in a calm, warm voice, as if she could understand every word. After a few minutes, she stopped growling. After a few more, she rested her head on her paws, exhausted. Daniel looked at the helpless little family and felt something stir inside him, something he hadn't felt in years. Purpose. He didn't have much, but he had his blanket. Carefully, he wrapped it around the dogs to shield them from the rain. He used the last few coins in his pocket to buy a cheap loaf of bread and a small carton of milk from a nearby store. It wasn't proper dog food, but it was better than nothing. From that night on, they became his responsibility. The next few days were hard. Harder than his own struggles had ever felt. Finding food for 5 hungry mouths was not easy when you barely had enough for yourself. Daniel began waking up earlier, walking farther, collecting bottles and cans to exchange for spare change. He skipped meals so the mother dog could eat. He found an old cardboard box to give the puppies shelter. When the nights grew cold, he gave them the warmest corner of his makeshift sleeping spot. People still ignored him as they passed. But now, he didn't feel invisible anymore. He had a family again, even if it was made of fur and tiny wagging tails. One afternoon, while Daniel was sitting outside a small cafe sharing a bit of sausage with the dogs, a young woman stopped in front of him. Her name was Maria, a college student who volunteered at a local animal shelter. She had seen many homeless people before. She had also seen many abandoned animals. But she had never seen someone with so little give so much. "Are these your dogs?" she asked gently. Daniel nodded. "They are now." She noticed how carefully he cared for them, how the puppies climbed onto his lap, how the mother dog trusted him completely. It moved her deeply. "They shouldn't be out here on the streets," Maria said. "There's a shelter nearby. I can help you take them there. They'll be safe, warm, and fed." Daniel lowered his eyes. The idea of losing them felt like losing his family all over again. "Will they be okay?" he asked quietly. "Yes," Maria promised. "And you've already done the hardest part. You saved them." The next day, with Maria's help, Daniel brought the dogs to the shelter. The staff were amazed at how healthy the puppies were despite everything. They told Daniel that because of his care, all of them had a real chance at life. As he watched the little family being taken inside to warmth and safety, Daniel felt proud, and heartbreakingly empty. He expected that to be the end of the story. But it wasn't. Maria couldn't stop thinking about the gentle homeless man who had sacrificed everything for those animals. She began sharing his story with friends, on social media, and at her college. Donations started coming in, first small, then larger. People brought clothes, food, and supplies. Someone helped Daniel get a temporary place to stay. Another helped him find a part-time job. All because one man had chosen compassion over indifference. A few weeks later, something even more incredible happened. All 4 puppies were adopted into loving homes. The mother dog, now healthy and strong, was adopted too, by Daniel himself. With help from the shelter and the community, he was able to move into a small rented room. For the first time in years, he had a key in his pocket and hope in his heart. When a local reporter asked Daniel why he helped the dogs when he had nothing, he gave a simple answer. Because being poor doesn't mean you stop being human, he said. Dignity isn't about what you own. It's about what you give. The story spread far beyond the city. People were inspired not just by the rescue of a few helpless animals, but by the reminder that kindness can live even in the hardest places. Daniel eventually found steady work at an animal care center, the same shelter that had saved the dogs. He spent his days helping other abandoned animals find homes, just like he once did. And every evening, he returned to his little apartment where the mother dog waited for him, tail wagging, eyes full of love. He had rescued her. But in truth, she had rescued him too. And that is the real dignity of a man, not in wealth or comfort, but in the size of his heart and the courage to care when no one is watching.